Zhao Yu continued, I don't understand. Her Dan Qianxia Qi has clearly been disabled, but she's absorbing primal Qi. I find this confusing and would like to ask for your opinion, Master. Zhou said nothing. Instead, he walked out of the great hall with his hands on his back. Little Yuan and Mingshi Yin hastily followed him. Duanmu Sheng waved his overlord Spirit Wei Zhuan and shouted, Let's go! Future great General Wei! In no time at all, Zhou and the others arrived at the South Pavilion, and outside of the room where Yi Tianxian was kept, they were still some steps away when they felt the faint waves of primal Qi from the room. It was not strong. However, this should have been impossible for a cultivator whose Dan Tianxi of Qi had been disabled. Zhou waved his hand. The door was opened. He was greeted by a shocking scene. Yi Tianxin was levitating above the bed. Her body was gleaming with a faint radiance, the color of white jade. She was absorbing the primal Qi in the surroundings. Her skin tone was slowly recovering, and her white hair was slowly darkening. Incredible. Zhou remained calm as he observed Yi Tianxin's changes. Mingshi Yin and Liu Yuan came to the side to have a look. Both of them were shocked. The transparent primal Qi wrapped itself around Yi Tianxin as more and more primal Qi was pulled in from the surroundings. Her hair was turning blacker and blacker by the minute, and her skin tone was gradually changing to that of a normal person's. Her characteristics were slowly disappearing. Master, the primal Qi is still gathering. Little Yuan reminded him. Zhou remained silent. With his current cultivation base, it was not difficult for him to sense primal Qi. Golden Court Mountain was one of the 72 blessed lands. It had a natural advantage and was rich in primal Qi. It was also protected by a barrier and was practically untouchable. This made Golden Court Mountain a place well suited for cultivation. Zhou could sense the primal Qi that was being gathered around them. Moreover, it seemed to be gaining speed. Creak! 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 Master, what's happening? Liu Yuan asked, slightly worried. Mingshi Yin was surprised by the sight. He said, This might be one of the Bai people's characteristics. Will senior sister Qianxin die? Liu Yuan was not very experienced with the affairs of the world. Her opinions and hostility against Yi Qianxin were much lower after this incident. I don't think so. Creak! The primal Qi formed a special energy that wrapped around Yi Qianxin. Mingshi Yin cupped his fists and said, Master, did you know about this special characteristic of the Bays? Zhou stroked his beard and nodded. If she's not a Bai, how could she be more talented than you in cultivation? Upon hearing Zhou's words, Mingshi Yin was hit with a pang of realization. He had joined the Evil Sky Pavilion much earlier than Yi Qianxin. He had also cultivated painstakingly. However, after Yi Qianxin had joined the Evil Sky Pavilion, her cultivation base surpasses in no time. For this reason, their master had happily given her the amorous hoop. With a heaven-grade weapon in her possession, she became even stronger. He, who prided himself on being a genius, suffered a blow from this. By the time his little junior sister had joined the pavilion, he had already gotten used to it. At this moment, Yi Tianxin slowly descended on the bed. With a soft grunt, she slowly opened her eyes before taking in her surroundings. When she saw that Zhou was standing beside her, she became emotional and struggled to get up, causing the energy around her to disperse. Yi Tianxian hurriedly got up and kneeled on the bed. Since I know the true culprit behind that incident, I wish you'll allow me to kill that bastard with my own hands, Master. After my wish is fulfilled, I'll atone for my sins with my life. Atone for your sins with your life? Mingshi Yin hastily went up to her and said, This Wei Zhuyan is a fake. Don't you go killing the wrong person. A fake. Yi Tianxin was stunned. Mingshi Yin filled her in on the latest developments. When she heard this, Yi Tianxin visibly withered. Her expression was dark, and she appeared to be listless. If it were not for her anger, she might have remained unconscious for a longer period of time. Your Dan Tianxi of Qi has just recovered. You shouldn't pull a stunt like that. Mingshi Yin advised her. Just recovered? Yi Tianxin appeared lost. She hastily lowered her head and looked at the skin of her wrist. Then she grabbed her own hair. For a moment, she was dumbfounded. Mingshi said, "You're a bai." "A bai." Humans are the most intelligent of all creatures, and yet many variations exist. Some are tall while some are short. Some are fat while some are slim. Some are dumb while some are smart in cultivation. Some are more gifted than the others. Mingshi said cautiously but frankly. Yi Qianxin was taken aback. Mingshi was ready to explain things to her slowly. Zhou raised a hand and interrupted him. He said, "Yi Qianxin, I have a question for you." Yi Qianxin immediately trembled. She regained her composure and looked at Zhou subserviently. "Do you know about Cheng Huang?" Cheng Huang. Yi Qianxin appeared puzzled. Then she appeared to mull over Zhou's words. No matter how she racked her brains, she did not know anything about it. She shook her head and said, "I don't know what Cheng Huang is." Zhou's gaze fell on Yi Qianxin again. Name Yi Qianxin. Race by human. Cultivation base. Nascent divinity tribulation realm. Recovering. Zhou noticed that an extra human was added behind the word by as an added explanation. Also, her cultivation base seemed to be recovering. However, her loyalty had not been triggered. He thought about it for a moment. There was no doubt her hatred had been cleared. Perhaps she needed to be reinitiated into Pavilion for her loyalty to appear? Did she break the cocoon and morph into a butterfly? Or did she break it only to bind herself? Zhou was in no hurry anyway, so he said, "Never mind. If even the Bai did not know about Cheng Huang, perhaps it did not exist in the first place." Moreover, Zhou had practically no interest in Cheng Huang. With the reversal card, he could live on forever as long as he stayed out of harm's way. Why would he need Cheng Huang? Zhou's objective was not Cheng Huang's life-extending ability. He had a vague feeling that he would be able to regain his lost memories if he could find Cheng Huang. With this thought in mind, he turned around and left. "Rest well, master." "Rest well, master." Little Yuan followed Zhou when he left, while Mingshi stayed to explain what had happened to Yi Qianxin. He began from a Bai people, Cheng Huang, their master's investigation of the Fish Dragon Village incident, to him being afflicted by the witchcraft trap and manning the cloud-splitting chariot. He recounted everything to her. Yi Qianxin was naturally stunned by his words. After a moment, she said earnestly, "In any case, I'll remember your favor for a senior brother. Don't thank me. You should thank Master. I've committed a grave mistake. I don't think Master will let me return to the Evil Sky Pavilion that easily." Yi Qianxin said, "Don't worry about it. It's true that it might be difficult if this had happened in the past, but Master's behavior and temper have changed quite a bit lately. If you show some effort and sincerity, I don't think it'll be a problem for you to return to the Evil Sky Pavilion." Mingshi said, "Besides, we're short of hands." Whenever he thought about how a person of his status had to man the flying chariot's helm, he felt slightly embarrassed. For senior brother, are you serious?" Yi Qianxin asked tentatively. "Of course. Humans are reciprocal in nature. Master has given me the separation hook and scabbard. For that alone, I won't say anything bad about him ever again. Don't give me that look. I'm perfectly normal," Mingshi said. When she heard Mingshi Yin's words, Yi Qianxin sighed with relief. After Zhou left the South Pavilion, he did not return to the Evil Sky Pavilion. He checked the list of missions on the system dashboard. Apart from the missions of instructing his disciples, the mission of making Wei Zhuyen admit his guilt was still ongoing. The fake Wei Zhuyen admitting his guilt naturally did not count. Zhou gave it some thought as he made his way to the North Pavilion. Little Yuan asked curiously, "Master, what are you going to do in the North Pavilion?" Zhou glanced at Little Yuan. He could tell there was something on her mind. He asked casually, "What's the matter?" "I've been cultivating the Supreme Purity Jade Slip, but I can't help but feel that there's something wrong with it." It was a good sign that Little Yuan was willing to ask for advice. Zhou nodded and said, "Let me interrogate Fan Xiuwen first." "Thank you, Master." The two of them reached the North Pavilion. The charred Fan Shiowen was lying on the floor. He seemed barely conscious. His breathing was extremely shallow, as though he was going to die at any given time. Zhou shook his head and said, "Lung Lo, do you want to witness Mo Li's death so badly?" Creak! Fan Shiowen could not move, but he managed to clench his fist. The sound of him cracking his knuckles rang in the air. "I can help you kill him, Mo Li," Zhou said slowly. Fan Shiowen struggled to open his eyes that could still be seen on his blackened face. Zhou continued, "However, there's a condition." Zhou could clearly see that Fan Shiowen was shaking. "The condition is simple. From this day onward, you'll have to be loyal to the Evil Sky Pavilion." The room fell silent. Fan Shiowen stopped shaking and seemed to have regained his composure. He did not speak, but a self-mocking expression could be seen on his face, as though he wondered what use he would be in his current state. He was aware of his situation. The leader of the Black Knights, the first on the blacklist, all those were meaningless now. Little Yuan kept her distance, since she was frightened by Fan Shiowen's appearance. Fan Shiowen was as dark as charcoal. He looked more like a monster than a human at this moment. Apart from being gravely injured, it was highly likely that his cultivation base had been crippled. He was useless now. Was there a need for the Grand Evil Sky Pavilion to accept someone like him? Little Yuan had difficulty understanding her master's decision as well. Naturally, she did not dare to question it. Master must have his own reason for doing this. "If you agree, I have ways to save you." Upon hearing Zhou's words, Fan Shiowen trembled. He mustered all his strength and lifted his head. He wanted to look at Zhou. Alas, his injuries were too severe, and he ended up slumping to the ground again. As he fell back on the ground, a wisp of a voice escaped from his mouth. "Sure." A single syllable was all he was capable of speaking at this moment. Ding! Obtained an 8-leaf nascent divinity tribulation realm subordinate. Reward, 2,000 merit points. Special suggestion. The difficulty of controlling the subordinate is higher than usual. Please increase his loyalty. Zhou glanced at Fan Shiowen when he heard the notification. Name Long Luo. Race human. Cultivation base. Nascent divinity tribulation realm. Highly damaged. Loyalty 2%. The low loyalty clearly showed it would be difficult to use him. In any case, Fan Shiowen was once on the top of the blacklist. Moreover, he was also the leader of the Black Knights, who held much authority. On top of that, he had a terrifying 8-leaf cultivation base. It was not surprising for someone like that to be prideful. Even Wei Zhuyan, the commander of the 3 armies, was not like him. In any case, his addition to the pavilion would still be a good thing. Very well. Zhou nodded in satisfaction. Since you've joined the Evil Sky Pavilion, you're not allowed to serve another master. Fan Shiowen tried to speak, but the only sound that came out from his throat was a gurgling noise. Zhou raised his hand slowly. A faint azure light appeared in his palm. When he waved his hand, the azure light descended. Upon seeing the ball of energy, Fan Shiowen's eyes widened. This was the critical heal card. It was worth it to exchange a 300-point card for a formidable subordinate. Moreover, the system had rewarded Zhou with 2,000 points. Zhou began to think about how to control Fan Shiowen. Indeed, it would be difficult to control someone of Fan Shiowen's caliber. In the end, he decided he would slowly deal with this matter. Fan Shiowen was heavily wounded. The critical heal card could only heal 30% of his injuries. In his current state, he would not be able to play any tricks. The azure light shrouded Fan Shiowen's charred body, entering his body until it reached his extraordinary 8 meridians. The gentle energy instantly coursed through his body. Zhou appeared calm as he studied Fan Shiowen's change. The effect of the critical heal card reminded him of a Buddhist healing technique, the Merciful Arc of Salvation. The Merciful Arc of Salvation was a technique that only nascent divinity tribulation realm experts could cast. Moreover, it was highly taxing to cast such a technique. It was equivalent to transferring the healer's energy into the target's extraordinary 8 meridians. The energy would be used to expand the meridians again. The target's wounds would then be healed by Merciful Arc of Salvation's special effect. Fan Shiowen, loyalty plus 2%. It was impossible for Fan Xiuwen not to be shocked and moved by Fan Xiuwen's seemingly selfless act. He was, naturally, unaware that Lu Zhou had nothing to do with it, and it was all thanks to the critical heal card. When Lu Zhou saw Fan Xiuwen's loyalty rise by 2%, he appeared calm. It's difficult enough to raise his loyalty now. I can't imagine how difficult it'd be in the future. Also, 2 of his subordinates had died in the Evil Sky Pavilion. This will definitely be an obstacle to gaining his loyalty. It'll take more than a day or 2 to raise his loyalty to 70% or 80%. The critical heal card's effect lasted for half an hour. Lu Zhou calmly observed Fan Xiuwen the entire time. He was not worried with the critical card heal at work. After half an hour, the azure light began to fade. The entire time, Liu Yuana had looked on in shock. She stood at the side obediently, not daring to disturb her master. Finally, the azure light disappeared completely. The dry blood and crust fell off Fan Xiuwen. He tried to move. He placed his palms on the ground and pushed himself up. It seemed like he had regained some of his strength. However, his injuries were far from healed. Fan Xiuwen retreated into a corner and leaned on the wall. This was a better vantage point than the earlier one. He panted heavily as he said in a hoarse voice, "From this day on, Fan Xiuwen no longer exists. There's only Lung Luo now." As soon as he finished speaking, he broke into a violent coughing fit. After all, only 30% of his injuries were healed. Lu Zhou nodded slightly. He stroked his beard and said, "Lung Luo, I won't bore you with the rules in Evil Sky Pavilion." Lung Luo nodded. His expression was stiff. Even when he nodded, his neck seemed stiff. Perhaps he was not used to being a subordinate. Pavilion Master? Whatever you wish to call me. I have always taken promises seriously. However, I'd like to ask, why? Lung Luo could not figure it out. His current cultivation base was no different from trash. Even if the Evil Sky Pavilion were to kill him, he would not be surprised. Lu Zhou said indifferently, "Because you're Lung Luo." He was Lung Luo, an expert with an 8-leaf avatar. How could someone like that be worthless? Lung Luo nodded. Lu Zhou spoke again. "You want to kill Amoli?" "Yes." "When did you meet him?" "I can't remember. The only thing I remember is that she seems to be close with the Clarity Sect." Lung Luo said. "Clarity Sect?" Lu Zhou continued. "Amoli was from the Clarity Sect?" "That's right. Pan Zhong had studied witchcraft before this. He had said that many elders and seniors in the sect would adamantly refuse to discuss or mention witchcraft. Amoli, Emochi." Lu Zhou placed his hands on his back as he uttered the 2 names. It would have been fine if Lu Zhou did not mention those names. Upon hearing the names, Lung Luo's expression turned sour. It was clear that he was disgusted. Lu Zhou glanced at him and asked, "You've led the Black Knights for so long. Do you know what her cultivation base is like?" Lung Luo shook his head and said, "I've never seen her make a move. However, I don't think she's any weaker than Wu Xian when he was within the Grand Predecessor Formation." Within the Grand Predecessor Formation, Wu Xian merely possessed 70 to 80% of his strength. With this, Lu Zhou deduced Mo Li's cultivation base was likely comparable to a 7 or 8-leaf avatar. It seemed like the Clarity Sect was a place where there were crouching tigers and hidden dragons. Compared to them, the Righteous Sect paled greatly. The 2 sects were the same path, but their strength was starkly different. At this moment, Duanmu Sheng's voice suddenly rang from afar. "Master, I've locked Wei Zhuan up. His true cultivation base is only in the Divine Court realm. Even if we give him wings, it would be difficult for him to escape." Lu Zhou nodded. Duanmu Sheng continued. "Also, Old Seventh sent a letter." "What did he say?" "Foresee we ought to send them a letter at this juncture." The Righteous Sect Zhang Chunlai led a group of people to attack Old Eighth. Their effort ended in failure. Lu Zhou was puzzled as he said, "With Old Eighth's strength, how could it have possibly withstood the onslaught?" Old Seventh didn't mention anything about this in his letter. He also said that Zhang Yuanshan has already gone to the Clarity Sect. They originated from the same sect, after all. The Clarity sect is sworn to bathe Old Eight's Tiger Ridge in blood and avenge Zhong Chunlai, Duan Muxing said. Lu Zhou listened indifferently as though it was some insignificant news. He seemed amused as he said, "He brought this unto himself. He can't blame anyone for this." Duan Muxing did not continue. He did not understand his master's temper, nor did he know how his master felt about Old Eighth. He had already done his part by faithfully conveying Old Seventh's message to his master. Little Yuaner said, "Master, Eighth's senior brother's cultivation base is similar to mine. If the Clarity sect makes a move, I think he'll be chopped to death."